I'm Greg Amatic.
Hey, Greg.
The purpose of an H&I meeting is to carry the NA message of recovery to addicts who do not have full access to regular narcotics meetings. H&I meetings or presentations, except for those in longer-term facilities, are intended to simply introduce those attending to some of the bases of NA program. And then it goes on to say what constitutes an H&I meeting, because sometimes it is a little confusing for some people, or some of us that have the spirit to carry the message. Sometimes we get ahead of ourselves without checking with the subcommittee. It happens in my area. That's why I put it out there. In order to form a clear understanding of an H&I meeting or presentation, it's important to know where it fits in our service structure. Rather than being an NA group, which may be represented at the area service committee by a GSR, an H&I meeting is a service provided by that area service committee through its H&I subcommittee. An H&I meeting is always held under the auspices of an H&I subcommittee. Any meeting not linked into the service structure in this way is not an H&I meeting. Where there is no existing H&I subcommittee, groups conducting H&I service can be accountable by following the World Service Committee H&I guidelines and reporting to ASC or RSC. H&I meetings presentations are held in facilities where addicts do not have full access to regular Narcotics Anonymous meeting. That full access thing, for me, it gets, we have a couple meetings that we do at a men's residential center and a women's residential center. And the subcommittee was a little, some of the people on the subcommittee said we shouldn't have a meeting there because they can get out. And then some said, well, they don't have full access because when they first come in, they're limited to where they can go. So we put a meeting there, an H&I meeting. And some people still say it shouldn't be there, but we came to a vote. And all minds are clear now, I think.
I'm sorry, do you mind if I, because that same question's coming up in our area. Is
Yes.
there been an official vote at regional that says that H&I meetings can go into residential centers, or is that still kind of up to area by area?
I'm assuming that there hasn't been a vote at regional. That I don't know. I don't know of that. It's by a subcommittee in our area. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. Within our area, within our subcommittee, we decided to put. We put a women's H&I as well as a men's there as well. Okay. And it's been going well because for that particular facility we got volunteers, especially for the ladies. They only have, the panel leader only has one Friday out of the month. There's 4 ladies that leads the panel, and they each take a week, which works out. See, what I also understand through H&I is that participation, volunteers are necessary and very important, but commitment is sometimes hard to maintain for certain people. I mean, when I first got involved in H&I, the first subcommittee was a bunch of people, but then when we actually had to go to facilities, there was only 3 or 4 of us that maintained a consistent, persistent commitment. As I go on, all H&I meetings are closed to outside participation. NA members from the outside should attend the H&I meeting only when invited by the panel leader. The only people to attend H&I meetings are the panel leader, panel chair, panel member, and speaker, or anyone approved by the H&I subcommittee to go into that H&I meeting. If there's any confusion over whether or not a meeting should be an H&I meeting or a regular meeting, please contact your H&I subcommittee for assistance. All right, with that in mind, question, go ahead.
What type of facility were you talking about just a minute ago?
It's men's residential and women's residential. It's basically long-term care where you come out of jail, you get, if there's a bed open, you get into that facility, you have temporary housing, and some people can stay for 2 years or even longer.
But that's not a transition center, it's something else.
It's longer than a transitional center.
Okay.
I would say it's something else.
All right, thank you.
But when they come in, they get detox. And the people that first get there, their first few weeks, they can't go anywhere. So that's one reason And then there's some restrictions there as well.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
do homeless shelters completely fall outside of the scope? Because we've gotten requests for that too.
Well, no, it does not. It just depends on if they have, once you go in and do your H&I chair goes in and do a presentation with your PR chair and get the groundwork and the foundation or the boundaries set. I mean, if you guys think it will work for you, then you would do it. If you don't think it will work, or if they're more demanding than what you can do, it's suggested that you don't do it. And I try never to take on a responsibility without the volunteers. Because you as a chair end up doing more work than you want to do, and then trying to get people to come. What I've learned through this is that really for me, H&I has kept me grounded, man. When I lost my clean time after having 7 years, when I came back, someone introduced me to H&I because I had never done H&I. I didn't know what H&I was. So I went to my first facility at the jail. And I said, I hope they don't ask me how long I've been clean. That's the one question I didn't want because I only had like 6 months at that time. But through this process, man, it has basically kept me grounded, kept me focused on recovery. It's kept me also letting me know that I have room to grow. And also, I see when I go out to the facilities, I see myself and the people that are there. I see where I was, and where I have grown to, and where I need more help. Because sometimes you go out to facilities, nobody wants to listen to you, and everybody wants to be a clown. Sometimes, especially at the jail, sometimes they want to be, the funniest guy in the room, And with that, I just handle it as gracefully as I can. And usually it works out. When they see that you're serious and you're not there to disrespect them and all that, the groundwork is we're all on the same level. I'm just another addict here, letting you know what carrying my hope, experience, and strength, man. And it usually works out. And again, like I said, it has kept me grounded, has kept me into the books, has kept me reading, kept me wanting to do more step work. It's kept me wanting to be mindful of what I say, and hopefully I say the right thing to keep somebody else clean, and through this process it does work, man. As long as I continue to be humble, I continue to surrender to the process, I continue to do something about me, it usually works out. And for me, in the beginning, man, H&I was, if you said service, H&I was service. Everything else you guys were doing, that wasn't service. Straight up. I mean, because, okay, you straightened up the chair, you made the coffee, okay, that's great. You shared in meetings, okay, now let's go share it to somebody that don't even want to hear it, that need it, let's go do that. And you'll be surprised because you really never know who's going to really take heed to what you say. And what's good, though, is to see the people come out, oh, I know you, or go to the grocery store, and they're working at the grocery, and they say, hey, I know you from somewhere. Oh, yeah, that's where. I'm doing better now. I had those things like that are inspiring, encouraging to continue to do this. And for me, it's been a blessing to me, and I'm truly grateful for this. In the beginning, I didn't know. I was excited. And then, for me, I get disappointed when people say they're going to help, and then they don't help. And then I don't want to get where, sometimes I get where, oh, man, whatever. Now I get where you're committed, but until you actually show up, I'm like, okay. I mean, because there's a lot of people that sign on the dotted line, I do the volunteer sheet, we do the learning day. Yeah. And then some people tell me that, well, you know what? You need to go around to all the meetings and just stay present and just say H&I. Okay, I'll do that too. And then I try to get out there that I don't have to call you. You can actually call me. Here's my number. And these are the facilities that we go to. And this is the days that we go on. I printed out the stuff, and here it is. And in some places you can show up, you don't need a background check. The jails kind of scare some people. And there's a process for the jails. But some other facilities that we go to, there is really you just have to do the next right thing. You don't need a background check. They're just happy to have you too, to give them a break. But through this process, I'm staying clean, man. This time around, I'm connected with a purpose. H&I is one of those things I fell into. I didn't know that vice chair turned to chair though. You know, when they gave me that hook. Yes. And but I'm grateful. You know, after all is done, said and done, I'm grateful that someone just said, "Hey, you may want to try this," and I actually tried it, and it's been working well. And you know, just like everything, there's ups and downs. But I'm here to say that it's helped me stay clean one day at a time. That's all I got. We got 2 other speakers. We're gonna let them say something. How I got clean through H&I. Dennis.
My name is Dennis. I'm an addict. My clean day is December 13th of 2009. And there's a reason why I bring up that date. I wasn't a child of addicts. 30-some years of active addiction in one form or the other. Pissing away a very large sum of money in an inheritance. Found myself on the streets with a shirt on my back, said an army of one. That was the way I was brought up in my family. Men don't have to take care of anybody but themselves. You can only rely on yourself. And I believed that for a very long time. It was drilled into me by my father. It was drilled into me by my drill instructors and every sergeant I ever come across in the Army. I didn't need nobody. Till I found myself laying on a 3-inch foam mattress in East Liberty Presbyterian Church in Pittsburgh. And after pretty much about 6-7 weeks of being there, being okay with it, it was like a lightning bolt come down out of the sky. And at that point, I had what's called spiritual awakening. This is not my life. I have to do something about it. So at that point, I signed myself into the VA. I did a 28-day program. And then after that, you're eligible to go to what's called DOM, anywhere from 4 to 6 months. Well, I'd been in DOM for another 2 months when H&I came into the VA. Now, I'd been abstinent for this time. I hadn't put in, and I could have got off the hill by that time. But I didn't really have any idea of getting clean and staying clean. When I went in there with the premise of, I'm going to get the federal government to give me a paycheck every month. I'm just going to go out and get high and let the federal government pay for it. But Oliver and his wife, and I know he won't mind me using his name because he's like I am, he's very open about his anonymity. Came in and they brought an NA meeting in. Now, we weren't required to go to the meetings in the DOM. We were just required to stay abstinent to be there. But after hearing his story and talking to him and his wife after the meeting, I realized I finally found something to fill that hole inside of my heart. And it was NA. And NA gave me a purpose again. Because when I signed myself in late November to get into the VA, I was dead inside. I had nothing to live for. I had contemplated suicide, but I was too chicken to do it. I carried a lot of baggage from my past, a lot of stuff that I regretted. Now I had something that was going to give me purpose to live, and that was Narcotics Anonymous. After that, I started chasing it like I did the booze and the drugs. As many meetings as I could get to, I went to, till all of a sudden, I found myself with a year clean. I'm living in a halfway house, still underneath the VA umbrella, and Oliver is now my sponsor. Oliver's old school. Retired Master Sergeant, over 20 years clean. First words out of his mouth, it's time to get a service commitment. I'm like, dude, I'm already, my group secretary. I'm already doing service work. He's like, nah, dude, you got to get back to the program. It's not about you no more. You got a year clean. It's no longer about you. It's about giving back what has been freely given to you. I'm like, okay. I done followed all the suggestions so far. I hadn't got high. It's time for you to go to county jail. Like, what? You want me to go to jail? He's like, yeah, I want you to take a meeting in. So we went on back and forth for about 6 months. But at 18 months, shortly after I picked up my gray key tag, I was at the Allegheny County Jail doing H&I commitment. And I've been doing that ever since. I can look into the men's eyes at a jail or in a detox center, and I can see me sitting there, just one bad decision is all it would take. To hear them gates kick forward and kick backwards is the most humbling and gratifying experience I get every time I go into the county jail. Seeing people step up, volunteer to give their time is the most gratifying thing that I can ever have. And that fills that void that was in me for a very long time. I get asked, I get asked quite often when I'm at the county jail, why do you guys do this? And I tell them point blank, I'm still selfish just like I was using. Except for I have a different way of being selfish now. Everything I do for NA, in NA, is for me. Because at the end of the day, I'm still responsible for my recovery and not getting high. And they're like, that's pretty wild. You can be selfish and still give away? Yes. Because if I don't give it away, I can't keep it. Real simple. I'm real good about complicating crap. But the simpler I keep it, the better it is. This program has taught me humility. It's also taught me gratitude. But it's also taught me responsibility, commitment. And that's what H&I is about. Had it not been for this very workshop right here, I might have got high recently. I was real close. I was going through a very, very emotional time in my life. And I found myself in that very, very dark, lonely place. But the fellowship of NA and H&I and having a commitment kept me from not buying a bottle and going to get drunk or going to the dope man's house. This program and this service commitment is real life, life-saving stuff. We all talk about having a recovery bank. Going to as many meetings as you can possibly go to. So when you don't go to a meeting, you're still kind of okay. You still want to call your network or your sponsor, but sometimes, work shows up, family commitments, vacations and stuff, you can't make a meeting. But you went to so many that you're okay for just a few days or whatever. What better way to share that wealth of recovery. From your bank, take an H&I commitment. It's only 1 hour a month usually. A lot of people, they take the commitment and then they don't want to come no more. It's life-saving. Every time I go, I look at it this way. I'm just being an NA farmer. I'm planting seeds to the NA way of life. Because I don't know where it's going to go after I leave. I don't know whether I touched anybody, but I know I did my part. And I fulfilled my service commitment. And like Greg was talking about earlier, I've had 4 different gentlemen come from that Franklin County jail into my home group at Cannon in New Dreams and say, we're here because you guys came into the county jail. And that's just seeing the fruits of that seed grow. Out of them 4 men, 2 of them are still clean today, over 2 years. Just like me, they were touched by an H&I meeting coming into a facility. This is life-saving work. Because you can go to all the meetings in the world and have all the people on your network, but if you're not doing service work in H&I, in your community, point blank, you're violating the 5th tradition. Every group, primary purpose, carry the message to the addict who still suffers. NA way of life, that's the words to live by. Carry the message. That's what I do on a daily basis. I don't hide my anonymity because I have that's afforded to me. I don't have a job where, I have to worry about getting fired because I'm a recovering addict or somebody looking down their nose at me. I can share the NA way of life. But it's important for me to take it into places where they don't have that opportunity. And I don't know how many of y'all been in jail. I have. And one thing for sure that you have plenty of in jail is time to think. Plant that seed and let the brain water it, and maybe it'll grow. And we'll see another newcomer come in. Like I said, for me, the 5th tradition is a way of life and words to live by. I want to carry the message to as many addicts as possible, because I don't want nobody to feel that hollowness, emptiness, wanting to die feeling that I felt in the fall and winter of 2009. It's a very, very ugly place that I was in and can be in real quick. So every time I take a meeting in to any facility or go to meet a superintendent or a sheriff to set up a new meeting, it's for me to get another 24 hours clean. Because at the end of the day, that's what's important, is staying clean. But in order for me to keep staying clean, I have to give away some clean experience, strength, and hope. And that's what an H&I meeting is. Real simple. Steps 1, 2, and 3 is what we do at Franklin County. We don't complicate it any further than that. Just give them the information. Let them know there's people out there that love them. And will love them until they learn to love themselves. I didn't love myself when I first came into the VA. But I learned the meaning of love in the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous. And every time I take a meeting into a facility, I share that love. And when I walk out, I have more gratitude than it's worth more than any lottery winning could ever be. because I know just possibly, just maybe, I saved somebody's life. And if I save one life, my entire life doing H&R work, then all the horror that I went through in my past was worth it. If I can share it with just one addict and they get clean, all the garbage that happened to me in my past, all the struggles I've went through, it's worth it. Folks, if you got an H&I commitment, please fulfill it. If you're thinking about getting an H&I commitment, get with your area. If you don't think you have the time, or you're still on paper, we have other ways. We have the Georgia Bridge program. Fill out an application. You can do it online. Almost all the area websites have the Georgia Bridge program PDF file attached to it. If they don't, get with me after the meeting and I'll email it to you. There's ways to serve H&I. Get a commitment, and remember, if you don't think about anything else after you leave here, the 5th tradition, that's the NA words to live by. Every group has but one primary purpose, to carry the message to the addict who still suffers. That's all I got. Thank you.
I'm gonna have to call Jason. Jason, how's everybody doing today? Y'all doing good? Everybody feeling good? You're happy to be at GRCNA? Everybody's, it's a good day to be clean. I'm grateful to be at this workshop and to be able to share a little bit about H&I. I'm grateful to be of service to the Georgia region. This has been an awesome experience, being able to serve on the committee for the last 5 years, and just step up to the plate. I heard the guy earlier speaking about people getting clean, and we were talking about having opportunities, and everybody wants to have something to say about it, but hardly anybody wants to get up and do anything about it. And there's a lot of ways to be of service in Narcotics Anonymous. The best way to be of service in Narcotics Anonymous is don't pick up drugs. To stay clean and go to meetings. Stay clean, go to meetings. Stay clean and go to meetings. Then you have a shot at figuring out what what your purpose is in this world, whether it be, to be a man or an amoeba, I don't know. But if you stay clean and you keep coming to NA, one thing that you do, hopefully, is the pain of staying clean will either get great enough to where the next best thing you can do for your recovery is to work the steps. You might get a sponsor and start working the steps and applying the principles and the steps to your life. Then things will change. The 12th step talks about carrying the message. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to practice these principles and to carry this message to addicts. That is service. That's what we do. So we start telling people about how these principles have saved our lives. Okay? We start telling people, not just through our mouth even, but through our actions, what it's like to be clean and living the NA life. And once we get in that situation, hopefully we're in this situation where we're clean and we have enough recovery about us to where we can join some of these committees. And I hope I'm not. This might sound ugly, but if we just try to apply some of this to our life and our recovery, we get in these committees, we might be healthy enough to actually do some proper service, which is doing the right thing for the right reason. Is what our basic text says. It also talks about when we are of service in Narcotics Anonymous, it's always about carrying the message to the addict that still suffers. Whether I'm doing PI work, PR work, whether I'm on the phone line, whether I'm opening the door at my meeting, whether I'm sponsoring somebody, or just staying clean and sharing recovery right here, me and Greg might be talking. It's always about carrying the message to the addict who's still suffering. If it's about anything else, it's politics, okay? It's control and manipulation, and that is what tears our fellowship apart. So I wanted to get that little bit out of the way because that's kind of the little platform I'm standing on today. I get that out of the way, I can talk about H&I because I'm really excited about H&I. I love H&I. Sometimes myself and my experience gets in the way of this beautiful thing that's H&I. So H&I is carrying the message into addicts who can't get to an outside meeting. And Greg, when you read that little piece, what I got out of it the most is that not only it's basically an introduction to the program. Most of H&I is just this is what NA is. This is what it can do for you. Because most addicts that are in a situation where they can't get to an NA meeting, they either one have never heard of NA, or they're tired of hearing about NA. And they don't want to hear about the 12th step or the 11th step or how your 6th step helped your life. They really want to know how to pick themselves up out of the gutter and just stand on their own feet. Can I really stay clean today? Can I really get out of this detox facility without dope? Is it really possible for me to live outside of an institution without getting high? And the little things that are connected to that kind of story is what you might say in an H&I type presentation. And usually in my area where we do H&I, we've got two different kinds of H&I presentations. We've got a little jail we go into. The men go talk to the men, and the women go talk to the women. We swap weeks, men 1 week, women 1 week, because they ain't got time for NA like we want them to. We think that the jailer, right? Isn't this a group of addicts in here? We think that the jailer should want NA in there as bad as we want to go in there, right? They can only really allow us in there for 1 hour a week. And they're nice enough to pay somebody to escort our asses in there so we can talk to the addicts who are unfortunate enough or fortunate enough to get locked up in a facility where we actually do come in. Okay? So it's like a super privilege to be able to do H&I service. So when we go in, we should dress appropriately. We should act appropriately. We shouldn't be doing anything sideways. There's another reason why in that purpose it talks about only people that are on the committee or under the panel leader or the panel coordinator or that are on the panel should go in. Because they need to know how to appropriately conduct themselves when they go into this place so we don't lose the ability to go into this place. H&I stands for hospitals and institutions. So we don't just go into jails. Sometimes we go into detox facilities. Sometimes we go into hospitals. We go into treatment centers. We go into drug courts. We go into a lot of things. There's a whole lot of different ways to carry an H&I message. Most H&I messages are short term, brief descriptions of how to get clean, how to stay clean, how to find a meeting when you get out of here. Okay? Any other type of an H&I meeting, sometimes when you go into a long-term facility, there's plenty of we got a handbook here that talks about treatment, correctional, psychiatric, and forensic. We talk about committee structure. There's all kinds of things to talk about in H&I, but when we get to a long-term facility, it becomes something else. It becomes an institutional group. And that's when the H&I committee has the recovery to say this has become something that it was not, and it's time to talk to the facility again and see if we can't work out a way for the inmates or clients to figure out how to have their own meeting. This is the way we do H&I. If your committee doesn't want to do things like this, we need to step back and look at the recovery that's involved. Because when we lay guidelines out and we apply recovery to them, they should always line up. if the guidelines were written spiritually and we thought about the traditions and what was best for the still suffering addict when we wrote them and what's best for our committees, then we need to follow these guidelines and apply recovery and principles to them. Same things, and commitments will thrive. They will flourish. Okay? When we apply personalities over principles and we wind up with one person taking a meeting in over here and we're not following the guidelines, it creates conflicts in our committees, and the next thing you know, our committees are getting smaller and smaller and smaller, even going away. There's plenty of areas in our state, our region happens to be a state, that don't have a PR committee at all. There's plenty of areas in our state that don't have an H&I committee at all. Why is that? Is it because there's not addicts there? Probably not. Is it because there's not ENA there? Probably not. Is it because there's no facilities there to serve? Absolutely not. Just about every county in this state's got a prison or a correctional institution of some sort. Okay? It's very rare in Georgia for there not to be some kind of a correctional institution. We got a ton of them. I mean, a bunch. 200 plus. Okay? So there's a lot of addicts out there that could potentially have a service provided to them. And there's 20 or 25 folks in here now. Chances are most of the people in this room are already doing service. Okay? How do we get the ones that aren't in this room to do service? Because that is what we really need to look at as H&I at the regional level. We need to have active H&I members in the state talking to their H&I committees about, hey, when you go to region, please, y'all try to brainstorm on ways to carry this message to the fellowship so we can start growing as a committee again, so we can start being of service in a more productive way. Okay? There's so many things that could be done that we can't do because we don't have human resources. We got addicts. We got plenty of people coming. I went to a meeting the other day in Chattanooga that had 140 people in it on a Thursday night. 140 addicts attend this meeting regularly. Their H&I subcommittee has 4 people on it. Okay? How do we fix that? I think that we take the politics out of the recovery and we start to think about, hey, why did they put that service prayer in the front of the basic text? You know, about the divine precepts. You know, why did they put that up there? Because they were constantly battling with self-will, and they needed to be reminded that we're doing this for the right reason, not for personal reasons. And I mean, it's awesome. Look at our basic text. Isn't it awesome? Written by addicts for addicts. Well, we can have thriving committees that are awesome if we start getting our minds right and start doing things for the right reasons. I believe this is true, you know, and I went right back to my pedestal again. I'm sorry. Anyway, I got clean in H&I too. I was a young dad who missed out on all his kids being born because he was a dope head. You know, I was there, I was present, but I missed all that. And my family got tired of it and decided that I needed to go to treatment. So one day I woke up in the chair in my living room, and I was told to go on in this room, and my whole family's there. And they say, oh, by the way, you know, we're going to treatment today, or else I'm leaving with your wife and kids, you know. And I gave them the double finger and told them I wasn't going anywhere, just like a good addict does. And they left, and I got miserable. And next thing you know, I'm in treatment because, you know, I missed them. For some reason I missed them, and I went to this treatment facility, and these smiling, happy folks walked in, you know, somewhere between my 3rd day's nap, because I think I slept for about 2 days when I got there. They just woke me up to eat and to go to meetings. I get ushered into this room, and all these smiling people were there wanting to hug me, telling me that I didn't have to get high anymore, you know, and that there was another way. And it baffled me. It absolutely baffled me. And I left there 2 days later, cured like every good addict does. And I was made to go to meetings, and I was told I could choose where I wanted to go, but I had to go, and I chose to go where those smiling people were. You know, and I've been clean ever since that day. But we got to, and I say that because I didn't jump into H&I service in the beginning. I got forced into being a GSR in the beginning. So I was forced to be of service by my home group because I was in everything else. And it was like, dude, you do everything else. Why don't you go to area? So I went to area, but you know what? The smiling people were over there. And they had this thriving committee in my area, and it was awesome. There was about 20 people in the H&I committee, and I was like, I want to be a part of a committee with 20 people. I want to be a part of a committee that people want to go to. You know, the smiling folks. These folks went places together. They hung like a home group. They hung out after and before they went and did this service stuff. They were excited about it, you know, and that's the committee I chose to be involved in. And then I started, you know, just being a committee member. Imagine that, joining a committee just to be a committee member, not to be the damn secretary or a panel leader, or no, just to be on the committee. I just want to be on the committee and learn how to do it. You know, that's the way I got involved in H&I, and it was awesome. Came up through H&I, got involved in service, like formal service in H&I, not just taking the message in. And it's one of these things that I think it's just a part of my story and where I am in my life, but it's one of these things that's tearing at me now. Maybe it'll be evident if somebody ever listens to this recording that there's not a thriving committee in my area anymore. That committee of 20 that was tight is nowhere to be found, and it's lonely doing service by yourself. And when you're left looking at a situation and you're the only one there, you tend to look into the mirror to find out what the problem is. Sometimes when I internalize or turn it around and say, well, are you the problem and I'm the only one standing, you know, typically the answer is yes. So, you know, I don't want to be the problem, but 9 times out of 10 I am. Hopefully that's not why the H&I committee is no longer around, but I digress. Anyway, it's a good day to be clean. Like for people to get involved in H&I. We got this neat thing now where the Georgia Region Bridge program, if y'all haven't heard of the Georgia Region Bridge program, it's really pretty cool. Anybody can be involved in it. You need to have a year clean in order to bridge the gap. Bridging the gap is for someone, let's say, that's in prison that has written out and said they want to, you know, somebody to help them get to a meeting. And they've never been to NA, they heard about NA and they'd like to go. And they write a letter in from prison, let's say, and we send them a couple of pamphlets and a meeting schedule for their area, closest to wherever they live. Anyway, when they get out, they call this number, and then they get hooked up with one of you guys that's willing to hook up with them and take them to a meeting. When I say take them to a meeting, I mean meet them at a meeting. I don't mean go to their house and pick them up and do this, that, and other. There's some do's and don'ts that are involved, and all that stuff's in there to be learned. But it's a great way to help somebody get to their first meeting. You know, we don't want you to sponsor these people. We don't want you to, you know, promise them food or lodging or anything like that. What we want you to do is introduce them to your friends. You know, make them feel like they're at home. Smile at them. You know, that smiling part I was talking about, that's one of the most important things we can do, I believe, is, I mean, you know, if you're happy in recovery, it should show. It should show. You know, if you go to your home group to argue with everybody there, that shows. Whether you know it or not, I'm going to give you a news flash. If that's the way you are, everybody at your home group knows. Now you know. And if you and you know, put a smile on your face and show these newcomers that staying clean in NA is possible, and get involved in H&I. That's all. Thanks.
Thanks, Jason.
Thanks, Jason. I'm Greg, still an addict. Anyone wants to?
Got a question?
I just
Got it.
have a question. Is that
Sure.
okay?
That's cool.
You had mentioned it's something we're struggling about, and my subcommittee had been kind of rumbling this over in our heads, so I wanted to get your perspective on it. Not sponsoring people, we understand that that's part of we understand why that's in place in an institution. But I'm wondering if there's a better way for us, or if you guys have found a better way for us to answer those questions when you get someone that says, hey, I need a sponsor. I'm required to have a sponsor. And we say, okay, we'll just go to a meeting when you get out. And they say, well, I'm going from the institution to jail and I need a sponsor. If they call the helpline, is there a temporary sponsor list, or what's the best thing to point them to the right resources for that?
We have typically diverted those type of requests to the Marietta Writing Steps in Recovery. They have a project-based panel. It's kind of like, it might be a committee, but I'm pretty sure it's a project-based panel. And they actually pen pal people that are institutionalized the steps anonymously. Everybody's coded in. If you were in jail, you would write me, and you wouldn't know me as me, and I wouldn't know you as you. You would be X, and I would be M, or whatever, and we would write back and forth. The only person that knows who each other is the guy who chairs the committee. He's like the code master or whatever. He takes everybody and puts them in a code, and then swaps everybody's information around. It takes time. The process of mailing in, getting the letter with the step material in, and back and forth, but that's always what we do. The Marietta Writing Steps in Recovery, that's what the name of the committee is. I would just approach them, go to the Marietta website, and they should have a link on there to the Writing Steps in Recovery program with a contact.
Okay, so for folks that are leaving institution and going to jail, that makes sense. However, a lot of times we'll get people that says, I'm required, I have to get a sponsor, that's part of my probation, and we never know what to tell these people. We say, we can't sponsor you, but is there a temporary sponsor list for people outside of that?
The easiest way to do that is tell them, when you get out, I'll meet you at a meeting, get a temporary sponsor. We say, in our home group meeting, you need a temporary sponsor or a permanent sponsor. See a home group member after the meeting.
But for people that are in long term and want a sponsor, there's nothing for them.
That's a personal thing. The individual has to put in the effort. Okay.
They want to, but they're just asking me how they can get a sponsor. I don't know what to tell them.
As far as H&I is concerned, as your committee's concerned, H&I does not sponsor people. We don't give people our personal information, our telephone numbers, any of that stuff. That is not something we do.
Yeah, we totally get that, but if they're looking for a sponsor
right.
and they don't have access to go to a meeting outside.
Right. Here's the thing. If they're being required to do something by the facility they're in, and they're asking you for instructions, then that you don't have the answer to, we always direct them back to the staff at their facility. You would say, that's something you need to talk to your counselor about. You might even go and speak as a panel leader. You might go and speak to the staff on hand and say, and let them know that as part of an H&I panel, H&I doesn't share that kind of information. It's not what we do. It might be what you do, but it's not what we do. And if it's something that's pressing, because NA is not archaic. We're not stuck in this book that was written in 1979. Okay, it's not 1979 anymore, in case anybody didn't know. Okay, we don't have tapes anymore. Okay, but this is what you do. You go and you talk to your area. Remember, I would read it. It says, everything that occurs in the course of NA service must be motivated by the desire to more successfully carry the message of recovery to the addict who still suffers. So you take that to your area. and you say, H&I goes in this facility, and these people ask and ask and ask and ask and ask and ask, is there something that we can do as an area to help them? And let your area mull it over.
Yeah, they send
and if the area can come up with something, then do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Get the area to try to figure out a solution to the problem. First, you let the committee, the staff know that it's not H&I, and you can't do it through H&I, and maybe the request will slow down. If they don't, if the staff says they need something outside, maybe your area subcommittee can come up with some answers. Maybe a home group wants to go up there and try to help those people, but that would be something outside of the auspice of H&I.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to mimic what Joe said in PR. If you live in a place and you're not on a committee, there's a PR committee and an H&I committee somewhere close to you that needs your help. We need your help. Greg?
Of course, we need your help.
We need your help. This, all right, here's go.
Willie G, and I'm not.
Hey, Willie.
Grateful for God, me to allow us to see what he does through me. I'm the H&I task facilitator.
Willie, you mind coming up right here? Please. Just for the recording.
Go. He's putting you down. Right
It's okay.
on. There you go. We'll lay you out on the couch.
Name is Willie B.
Hey, Willie.
And like I said, I'm grateful for the God in me that allows us to see what he does through me. Truly, this program is about service, and I'm a servant today. H&I. I'm the H&I task facilitator for the South Atlanta area. Henry County, Clayton County, South Fulton County. We have responsibilities of carrying the message into institutions and hospitals. Recently, one of the things that has happened is you have infighting in subcommittees. You have people who want to do it their way. They have all the answers to everything. And one of the things that I've learned being in Narcotics Anonymous is that we have subcommittees who have a responsibility for taking care of problems that come up, such as PR. My H&I position does not allow me to make decisions about being someone's sponsor. If the facility has a problem with or has a mandate that the people in that facility get a sponsor before they leave, you take it back to PR. Because PR is who brought the meeting to them. It's their responsibility to answer their questions, not ours. Our responsibility is to take that message into the institution or take that message into the hospital that an addict, any addict, can stop using drugs, okay, and find this new way to live. That's our responsibility. You know, I'm not there to be anybody's father. You know, I think I've held every position over the last year in our task panel because people don't want to participate. I ended up having to do workshops because people don't want to participate. I ended up having to travel because at that time we had a chair who didn't want to travel or couldn't travel actually. And so as the vice chair at that time, I had to travel. And this year we went to consensus-based decision making, and when that happened, we went to a task panel. And now that we're a task panel, everybody has a responsibility in that task panel. And me being that person that's supposedly the leader, I can't lead if you don't let me lead. You know, I had to figure that one out. You know, that I can't go in there and beat you down for things that you're not doing. You know, I have to be ready to take on your responsibility when you're not ready to do it. And that's what's been happening throughout all of Atlanta. It's not just the South Atlanta area. It's throughout the Atlanta region. You know, when somebody's not willing to do their job, there should be somebody else there on that task panel that's ready to step in and say, look, I'll do the job. You know, when somebody can't make a commitment and they call our facilitator, the person that should be talking to the individual facilities or the judges sometimes you're going to have a lawyer that you might even be talking to, or a jailer that you might be talking to, or the chaplain in an institution. You know, when those things happen, it's not my responsibility to try and make up for what you can't do. That's not my responsibility. But I have to be willing to take on that responsibility. I have to be willing to take, or the message stops. The message stops. Like we have a commitment to, or we had a commitment to one of the Georgia facilities, Georgia State Prison facilities that's located in Clayton County. And they had mandates on their inmates, or they didn't call them inmates though. They're not inmates anymore. They're not even residents. They have another name. They're not residents.
The work release?
Pre-release people.
Right.
So these pre-release individuals, they mandate that they have to have a sponsor before they get out. Well, that H&I handbook says we can't give them numbers. The only requirement that we have is to go in there and take them a schedule and tell them, I heard it said, meet us at a meeting. You know, if you meet me at a meeting, I'll introduce you to some people, because I still have to go back into that institution, or I still have to go back into that jail. And they wanted us to be sponsors, but they weren't willing to make the persons that were housed there come to the meetings. You go to a meeting and it's just one person there. What do? And after 5 weeks, it's still that one person coming to that meeting. Do we stop carrying the message?
Nope.
We still have to carry that message. So it doesn't, once you get service oriented, you know, once you find out that service is a part of what your recovery is based on, you become willing to do service wherever it's necessary. At least I did, and I can only speak about me. You know, I did. See, I remember when there wasn't an H&I subcommittee up in Ohio, and we're talking the early 80s. There wasn't an H&I. We didn't go into jail. You know, it took a while for that to happen up there. You know, even though it's not mandated that we have H&I. It's just a part of our area subcommittee, one of the panels that's in our area subcommittees. So, you know, I'm just one of those persons that I'm willing to do whatever I need to do to carry the message. You know, because when it's all said and done, the only thing that we have to give, man, is hope through a message of recovery. That's the only thing that we have to give. You know, and the best way to give that message is to go in there, dress correctly, to go in there, carry a clear, concise message of recovery, and to be there on a regular basis, on time, you know. And that doesn't mean that they're going to let you in your meeting area on time. Sometimes that doesn't happen. Yeah, sometimes you might be sitting there for a half hour, you know, or waiting for them to finish dinner. But we do what we have to do as members of Narcotics Anonymous to continue to carry that message. That an addict, any addict, can stop using drugs and find a new way to live. Our message is hope and a promise of freedom. And when it's all said and done, the only thing that we have to do is to carry a message to the still suffering addict. You know, that fifth tradition is real important. Thank you for letting me share.
Thanks for sharing.
My name is Dennis. I'm an addict.
Dennis.
And a lot of these subjects that we're covering, like sponsorship, literature, and stuff like that, are covered right in the H&I handbook, in the do's and don'ts. You know, if you don't have a written copy, You know, most of the areas have it in their drop menus, printed out. The facility wants to know why you can't do it. Show it to them in written form. It's right here. We have guidelines just like you have security guidelines. You know, this is for protect the NA name and to protect the facility. You know, I mean, point blank, we cannot go outside of guidelines, just like it says